everyone. Welcome to today's event. I'm not in my usual place. I actually popped into one of our Caldwell Banker Realty offices in New Jersey today to work while out getting some things done on the road. So literally, we can work anywhere, which is so awesome. So happy to have everybody here today. And I'm really excited about today's program. So today's event is a event that's co-sponsored with our Anywhere Service ERG in partnership with our Anywhere Women's Employee Resource Group and What Moves Her. And in honor of Veterans Day, where we honor and celebrate those who serve our country, including those who currently serve, who have served, and their families and individuals that support the military. Such a tremendous opportunity for us to come together and highlight women and the lessons that they've learned and things that they've learned about leadership as they've been involved in our armed forces. You know, military service is a selfless journey. It is filled with unique experiences that shape the viewpoints and perspectives of those who serve and their families. And it's no surprise that some of the world's best leaders are currently or have served in the military. They're veterans or their military family members. In particular, women who serve develop a high level of leadership skill that translates to continued professional service. And those services outside and professional successes outside of the military. So we talk about those transferable skills in leadership development. And so it's such a unique opportunity to learn in a totally different environment, but bring those skills to bear in leadership in really any industry, but certainly in real estate as well. In the United States military, women make up 16% of the armed forces. They serve in various roles, right? That continue to expand, which I think is super amazing to see as the women's role in military can expand to areas that perhaps previously they weren't thought capable of being in. And I love that empowerment and power being granted to women. But they are expanding to include combat and a lot of prestigious leadership roles. So today's leadership lessons learned as a woman in military life session is going to highlight 3 amazing women that I'm so excited for you to meet from across the Anywhere network who served or support the military in various roles. And together, we're going to explore those leadership competencies that the military experience helped shape, including decision-making, team building, and discipline. And throughout the event, please be sure to as always, add comments into the comments or questions into the comment section. And we'll save some time at the end for your questions of this amazing group of women. So I am thrilled to present and introduce our talented lineup of women. So first, let me introduce Carrie Ann Silman. Welcome, Carrie Ann.
Hi, thanks, Sue. Appreciate it. So I am the vice president of legal for Anywhere Brands. I've been with the company for almost 11 years, and I currently serve as the in-house brand counsel for the Coldwell Banker franchise system and the Corcoran franchise system. And I'm responsible for all the franchise regulatory work across all of our brands across the globe. I'm a franchise nerd lawyer, so I love my job. But on a personal level, I have a long history of military family. My father was in the Air Force. My grandfather was in World War II in the Army. My dad joined the Air Force and was served for 24 years. My older brother followed in his footsteps in the Air Force and served for 10 years. And now my nephew, his son, is currently serving in cybersecurity in the Air Force at Langley. And then most recently, my son, who is almost 22, I can't believe it, joined the Army when he was still in high school. He was very adamant that he didn't want to be that kid living in mom's basement playing Xbox, and he was going to go out there and do something and make the family proud. So he joined the Army and Infantry Division 101st Airborne, and he was stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky for the last almost 4 years. And he has made the decision to get out of the service this month, actually. And he is the Army did great. They prepare their soldiers, especially infantry, to get out because they don't really have a lot of transferable skills once they get out from an infantryman perspective or infantrywoman perspective. And they put him through trade school. So he's going to take the skills that he learned from there, and he's going to work for his father's businesses in West Virginia and figure out his career from there, next steps.
That's fantastic. And what a long line of service men and women you come from. That is tremendous. And we were talking before, and we'll talk more later about the unique role or different perspective you have as a mom, right? You've been a sister and a daughter, all of these other roles, but now as a mom with somebody with a son entering the service and what that does and the support that's needed and sort of how you've managed through that, because I think it's really important. We'll talk about that when we think about team building and empathy for our fellow teammates here as well. Really important. And thank you, and thank everyone for their service. Next, I'm going to bring up Mary Tennyson. Hi, Mary. Welcome.
Hello, thank you. I am Mary Tennyson. I work for Anywhere Integrated Services in the Tech and Data Systems. I support proprietary applications for our title companies, as well as our underwriter insurance. And then we also manage outage escalation for any applications or services that are down for Anywhere Integrated Services. I've been with the company for almost 20 years now, starting as a help desk analyst, moving through help desk management, and then transitioning into application-specific support as we combine services with corporate. I am a United States Marine. I dropped out of college in 1989 to enlist in the Marines. I served for 8 years. I would have stayed for as long as they would have let me, but I had medical reasons that I was forced out. I actually don't work in a much different environment than I did in the Marines because I worked in tech and data in the Marines as well. I started out as a COBOL programmer and transitioned into small computer systems and networking. So I definitely was given a career field. I am also the daughter of a Marine. He served 20 years spanning Vietnam and Korea, actually, and recently also became the mother of a Marine. My son graduated boot camp in January of this year and is now on track to pursue a commission but in 2024 after he finishes his degree.
That is amazing. Thank you for your service, and of course your entire family, and now your son. And I know you and Carrie Ann will have some conversations of now being moms in these roles as your children move in to the service. But very interesting that you were in the service, a Marine, but doing some of the same type of work from a technology perspective. Maybe not, sort of exactly the same, but working in the same type of field, just in a totally different environment. Really interesting. So I'm very curious to think about how you've and talk about how you're, building a team and working with folks sort of transitioned in the same type of discipline in technology across, and differences maybe you see between the working environment in the Marines versus what you're doing today. So thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to more conversation, of course. Lastly, we're going to bring up, but not least, Jenny Wallace. Hi, Jenny.
Good afternoon. My name is Jenny Wallace, and I'm a realtor with Coldwell Banker Realty out of Killeen, Texas. We are home to Fort Hood, and we are one of the biggest military installations in the world. I served in the United States Marine Corps from 2000 to 2009. And during that time, my husband and I talk about swift decision making. We had a decision to make if we wanted to invest in property or have a big wedding. And we chose to invest in property right away. First duty station that we were married, our first investment property was purchased while we were stationed in Camp Pendleton, California. Since then, as we moved from duty station to duty station, we bought, sold, and flipped houses. And our best investments have been here in Central Texas. My husband retired about a year ago, and we've decided to make Central Texas home. I have been a Texas realtor for 4 years now, and that experience that I've had allows me to better serve my clients. Although I no longer wear the uniform, I continue to serve the community at large. My mission now is to help veterans buy a home here in the country they help serve and protect. I still live by the Marine Corps motto, which is we never leave each other behind. And so, just how I have benefited from my hard earned VA home loan benefit, I strive to do the same by assisting and educating my clients in their benefits and helping them to do the same.
I love that, and your thank you for your service and your husband's, and it's so interesting to hear the intersection of real estate, certainly within your career and service, and how that discipline has transitioned to help you serve your clients today, but also yourself as you've built your business as a realtor. So that brings us to kind of our panel here. So if I could have, hi, ladies, there you are. That was like magic. Y'all just popped right up there. I'm so excited to have you all on today. I think such unique experiences and perspectives. And of course, we're sponsoring this through both our service ERG, our women's ERG, and of course, What Moves Her. And it's such a unique combination, I think, of perspectives on this call today. I'm sure we'll have a lot of people asking a lot and a lot of things coming in, but we really want to dig into like a couple key leadership themes. Some have been mentioned already: discipline, team building, decision making, of course, community, and services before self, and life work blend. But also, talk about life in the service a little bit. So I thought it'd be interesting to start, and I'll start maybe with you, Mary. Being a woman in military life, obviously you faced many challenges, experiences, obstacles. How do you think those have shaped you as a leader today? Or is there anything you can pull from that experience that you pull on now, and as you've grown your career here with us, and gone from help desk support to where you are today? It's a lot of growth.
I think that I was extremely lucky, both in the profession that the Marine Corps assigned to me and in the Marines that I got to work with, both officers above me, senior enlisted above me, my peers, and the people who reported to me as I advanced through ranks. There is definitely, in addition to individual diversity, there is, diversity when we tend to think of race or religion. It also encompasses leadership styles. I am an outspoken person by nature. I'm never shy. So being accepted for that and having that fit and having an environment where any type of leadership style is worked with to mesh definitely gave me perspective of things that can be said and done to encourage even a shy person to step into a leadership role or to take action that makes them actually lead a team. And the military, I think, is very good at pulling out the best of every personality, of every diversity factor, and empowering women, empowering minorities, empowering, again, shy people to still step up and be able to push forward and complete the mission.
There's something you just touched on that I'm going to just maybe double click on a little bit, because, and I'd love to hear from both Carrie and Jenny as well on this, but we talk a lot about loving your power, owning your power as a woman in business, as a leader. And oftentimes we get a lot of questions of, okay, but how, right? Give me the steps. And you just touched on how the military pulls that out of you, right? A little bit, and helps even a shy person become a leader, maybe in a different way, and pull out the best of you. I think as leaders, we all want to do that for all of our team members, but sometimes lack or aren't clear on what the actual how to do that. So for any of you, and maybe starting with you, Mary, if you're comfortable, but Jenny and Carrie Ann, how do you do that? Like, what is something, is there a tangible action thing or something that goes through your mind that says, I'm going to help this person, I'm going to pull out the best in them, and here's how I'm going to do that maybe you learned in the military, or seeing through military life, or just through your leadership style, because you clearly all have strong leadership skills.
I think there is a pretty strong balance of push and pull to develop people. Interestingly enough, in the tech and data field, growth isn't always as exponential as you might expect. It's not just learning a new application, you're automatically being promoted, but allowing people to pursue their interests and develop their strengths in what they're interested in definitely promotes more work and more growth. But on the same side, you also have to push and say, I know you don't enjoy this work, but you need to develop at this work. So encouraging them to take on the work that they don't necessarily enjoy or struggle with also builds strength in that individual. So there's definitely a balance of letting them work independently and build on their own, but also pushing into discomfort and into areas of growth. I mean, that leads to areas of growth.
I
That's
love that, Mary.
fantastic, Carrie. And yeah,
And,
I was going to say, I see you
yeah,
nodding, Carrie, and I love your
yeah.
perspective.
So I love, Mary, that you said it brings out the shyness in people. I didn't personally serve, but we moved all the time as kids. All the time. I was always the new person in the school. And of course, a lot of us were because we were in military school, military bases, but we moved overseas when I was like in second grade into Germany. And just that 8 years, I was very shy as a kid, but moving around the globe and being put in these different you know, different parts of the world with different people. And like you said, the diversity. I mean, you were forced, you could either stay in your room and read a lot, which I did, but you're forced to bring yourself out and, help people that are new because you've been there to bring their personalities out too. And I think that experience really shaped me as a person. When I'm feeling not so confident or feeling shy or I'm in a new role or I see other people that are struggling like that, I tap into that to say, okay, I've done this before. I have the courage to do it, and then I can help people do the same.
And I love both perspectives of that. One, how that I moved around a lot, and I tell people that, and they always ask if my father was in the military, and he was, but that's not why we moved. He was not in it. That's not why we moved. But it did allow me to create an inner sense of having to get comfortable being uncomfortable and walking into rooms that I'm not, I don't know anybody. And that just creates a different perspective on that when you see other people in those situations. And I think also pushing people outside of their comfort zone is truly where growth happens. And it sounds like, without having served in the military myself, obviously, but, I like to do that with my teams. And that is part of where you grew in the military. You have to do some things that you're on. And that's a great leadership thing to take forward. So, Jenny, I just have a question and kind of back to what I was starting with Mary. You obviously in the military faced changes, challenges, different experiences, and you've leveraged that to really create a not a niche, but a growth path within real estate as a professional. How do you see that? How do you think those things intersected for you? You mentioned discipline. I'm really curious what else you pulled from that experience to help you become the successful leader you are today.
Well, for me, I was in the Marine Corps and I'm 4'11". And so I quickly learned and adapted the traits to be assertive. You could be 4'11", but if you're firm, they're going to pay attention and do what they have to do. And so that was one of the key traits that I had for me. I'm serious when I tell you to do something. We need you to do what you're supposed to, or else it affects all of us as a whole. And I do bring that into real estate. I realize that for us, we're taught you don't say I, it's always teamwork. And so I know that it's not just my clients, it's title, it's the other agent on the other side. And I always look at it as we all have to work as a team. And even on the other agents, one of the Marine Corps leadership principles is know yourself and seek self improvement. And I do come across agents that are newer, and I could tell just because they're newer, they might not have the experience. I don't want this to affect all of us, so I do step in as a mentor at times and let them know if you're new, I can assist you. But anything that you need, let me know so we can all make this together, work as a team. And that helped me in the frenzy of the big sellers market. I don't know how many times I was told, Jenny, your offer, out of the X amount we received, we want to work with you. Sometimes the monetary, when everybody else's strategy is let's just go above and beyond, throw money, unrealistic expectations. We know that you know how to do the job right. And conduct myself in a professional manner. And that won me several of the offers over the frenzy. People that had heard of my reputation, know the way I conduct and carry myself, and they want to work with me.
I love that. So yay, well done. I think that's something that is, as we hear often, is lacking, but also a tremendous benefit when you have it and when you're known in your market as somebody who is disciplined, who is ethical, and is going to do the right thing by the client. I mean that is a tremendous value add in our business, and that's huge. So and also to do something. You're going to do it. It's going to affect us all if you don't, right? That team dynamic and understanding of how nobody reaches great heights all alone. It always takes a team. And I think to be intentional about that and understanding it from the perspective of a military experience where the stakes are significantly higher in team than perhaps what some of us do every single day. It's still a very, it's such a valuable component of everything we do. I want to switch gears just for a minute, and Carrie Ann, as a mother to a member of the military, and we'll come back, Mary, probably as well to all of you on this, but how do you uniquely serve your child as they serve our country? And I know Mary's getting ready to do this as well, and your son's on his way, on a different path now, but how's that? How do you serve them and support them?
Yeah, so there were two different pieces of it. And I know, Mary, you're probably experiencing this now, or you recently did. But when my son went to basic training, it was like he's my only child. It was like rip the band-aid off. Now I don't have a kid at home. And I spent my whole life as a single mom, just taking care of him. And he was my focus, aside from my career, of course. And when he was gone and I couldn't talk to him and we could only write letters and the letters were very slow and we didn't have his address, and that was really, really hard. So by the time I could get some communication from him or send him letters, it was 100% about positivity, telling him, how proud we are, how amazing he is, how I know how difficult it is, and sharing like even the most mundane things about home life, what the cat did, what we did for, where we went at night or over the weekend or whatever. It's just simple things about home that kept him connected to home when he was just ready to quit on himself. And he actually ended up breaking his leg and he had to do 14 weeks and then 22 weeks. So he was in basic training for a very, very long time. It was horrible. And so it was really just tapping into, as worried as I was and how scared as I was, like just remaining positive. And then when he finally moved on to his duty station in Kentucky, we're 14 hours away. So if he needed something, or if, it was during COVID, of course, too, but I'm on a plane, whatever he needed, I was out there to say, okay, you are the priority. What can we do to help you get settled? What can we do to help you be comfortable? You're far away from home. You're 19 years old. And so, it was really just trying to keep that home connection, I think, more than anything, and encouraging people to write him letters and call him, so that he had that little bit of home so he could stay connected. I think there were just two very different elements of his service that were just completely different. And I found that it was really hard. My friends didn't relate, nobody could relate to me having, it was almost like a grief with him being gone and I couldn't communicate. It was very weird. And so I, just joined organizations of, military moms so I could deal with it, really, just to deal with it emotionally, mentally. And so I could have that strength for him when I needed to do so.
I can't even, as I'm listening to you, I can't, I have an only child, and there is a difference, and there's the community. I was going to ask about the sense of community, and maybe we'll come back to that, because there is such a strong sense of community within the military, with all branches of military, and our service ERG is certainly one of those ways to get connected with others who are experiencing that, because it is a different kind of, it's not, your kid's not going to college. I mean, it's just a very different path, and the emotions are going to be different. And so I think having that to lean on, to under somebody else who understands what you're going through, I think is very important. Mary, Jenny, anything to add to the mom's perspective?
I
Um,
do encourage people that. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mary.
No, go ahead,
Oh,
Jenny.
I do encourage people that even if they have children in the military or they have a family or friends that are in the military community to connect and link arms with other community events or community opportunities just to see what they're going through. Also, keep an ear out of opportunities or something that may be beneficial even if it doesn't apply to you, just kind of keep that in your back pocket and listen to other people when they're speaking and say there's a service through this community event or this local chapter that can help you and kind of be a connector of that. Um, Connect people with services they may not be aware of because nobody comes to our door knocking and say, guess what, you qualify for this, or this is a way you can help our
Mm,
community. You have to take responsibility to take that initiative, and the service members will greatly support the that extra step that you've taken to support them.
thank you. That's great, Mary.
I would add that, um, and honestly, it applies to anybody who's just away from home. Never, ever underestimate the power of real mail and packages. Even though
Mm,
we live in an electronic world and you can Snapchat or text or reach out and let somebody know you're thinking of them, there is nothing like watching their faces when they get a letter from home. I was fortunate to spend time with my son while he was in training and his friends, and watching them come back from mail call, jumping up and down because they got a package of a food that's local to their region, and how excited they were. And for deployed families, people living in Europe, they can't get access to American goods. I mean, there's a lot that they can, but those little touches, they're just the joy and the happiness on the faces of the people that are on active duty or who are far from family is, never underestimate how much impact that can have.
yeah,
Oh my
it
gosh,
is.
you
It's
just made me
amazing.
tear up.
You're
You made me tear up. It's so true. Yeah.
well, I think there's such a lack of like, and not in an intentional way by any stretch, but we don't tend to think about those things every day. If we're not connected to the military, if we're not living it, if we're not seeing the faces of somebody getting a food that, that they, and I, I look at when you see the, you sort of list of things that people want, you want to send, and you see, and it's like, it's heartwarming and heart wrenching all at the same time, because some of it's just stuff we take I would say so much of it is stuff we take for granted having every day or being able to have access to, or if our kid goes to college, they can go get whatever they want, right? It's a
Yeah.
very, very different environment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we talk about that, and Jenny, you started touching on this, every arm of the military has such a strong sense of community and service. And you touched on a little bit in your last commentary, but how do you strive to carry that on in your life today? That sense of service to your community.
So I always partner with different services in our community, and I highlight through my social media channels what they have to offer. I have wonderful clients that I've worked with. I want to find out what they're involved in and also highlight them as well, support them, especially small business owners, going to their events, purchasing products that they may sell, and letting people know of whenever they have events. I have a client that just opened a motorcycle shop, and I try to highlight him. I try to go donate raffle prizes, anything I can do whenever he has events to promote his business. And it's working together as a community. There's so many resources that also if they're not used, they go away. So if you're not going to utilize something, let someone else know that can benefit, because in the military they stress that if even if it doesn't pertain to you, please find someone who can, because they evaluate some of these services. If they're not being used, the funding is no longer provided for those services.
Wow, that's really important information for everyone to have as it relates to that, right? Because you know that sets a different need for the awareness out there of how folks can help or connect. Because if it's just going to go away, that what a shame, right? That's a crime, it feels like, right? So how, connecting folks would be is super important to those services and things that are available, and that awareness. And I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that, I think later, maybe put some links in the chat. But Mary, how about you? Do you still strive to give back and carry that community of that service mindset into what you do today, whether it be within work or outside of work?
Absolutely. And I do it professionally and personally. I very much advertise. You all may be aware Marines are kind of forward about having been Marines. So it's in all of my work media. It's in all of my social media. And it's amazing that somebody just comes back and says, oh, you know what? I was in the military too. And there's a connection. And that's one of the biggest things that is finally being realized, is that need for connection. On the personal side, I work with several veteran services organizations, and being IT, I essentially live online. So anytime that somebody has a question, you don't, it's amazing to realize you don't know what you don't know, and there is no central repository for services. So if you have somebody that's struggling or wants to do something or needs to get out and get connected, finding a way to, just searching for, hey, you know what? There's a veterans fishing event that's free. You can get out and go fishing with other veterans and connect there. You can go out, there's quilting groups, and there's so many opportunities out there that people don't know about. So we try to advertise all of that. We try to get people, put something out. Hey, what are you looking for? And then try to connect through the Veteran Services Organization, and just keep kind of weaving the connections together. So if my group's not right for you, hey, you know what? I know about this other service that's out there. Do you know about this? Can you take advantage of this?
Yeah, that awareness and just keeping it top of mind and front and center, so people know to even ask, or that you're a resource in and of it, yourself, and you can help that connection. That's amazing. And I think, just helping make those connections is unbelievable. And I know we strive to do that within our employee resource group and as a team, but it is something very individualized and local, as well as what's going on that day that somebody can connect to maybe, or have those resources. So I was going to ask, as we start to, first of all, there's lots of thanks in the audience for your service, for your sharing your experiences, lots of positive feedback coming in. So thank all of you for that as well. And I think this is great. On the heels of the writing, don't underestimate the value of a handwritten note. Somebody shared that a story about writing letters to their son's friends who didn't get any letters, and the amount of gratitude they received during graduation for having kept up that's amazing. And so I think that's a great, and something simple to do, right? I mean, it's considering the impact, right? To your point, it's there's such value in that tangible piece of mail coming is amazing. So that certainly resonated, Mary, with others. So, and don't forget, guys, put in any more questions you may have too. Jenny, what tips would you have for real estate agents when working with the military community?
For agents working with the military community, I would highly advise to become aware of not just focus on the checklist for contract to closing. Also go above and beyond and find out what benefits are available. For example, property tax exemptions, a brush up on VA benefit classes, and take those yearly, because every year that I take it, there's always changes to the VA home loan benefit. And I personally purchased several properties here, and unfortunately, it wasn't until I was in real taking my courses that I found out about things that I qualified for. And several of my classmates, it was just eye opening, because see, people do have the mindset, if they treat people like a transaction, they never come back and tell you, look, you're more than a transaction to me. You qualify for these things as well, or these things may not apply to you now as your active duty, but if you're looking to retire if you have a service connection, there's a whole other set of benefits for you. And so I take responsibility for that. My husband has this joke: your clients could never get rid of you, because I'm always calling, taking notes, finding out where they are in life. Especially, for example, if you help someone while they were active duty and they're now telling you, I'm getting ready to retire, or getting out medically retired, just start taking notes and send them links, because that's a whole other set of benefits that they have. And like I said, people don't rush to tell us about that. And I learned those when I went to real estate school, and I don't take it lightly. And that just goes to show that there's such a gap there. And if it's happening to me, how many more other veterans are not aware? Because it doesn't end at the closing table. You need to consistently nurture and take care of those veterans, all your clients. Let them know what else, they're transitioning, things didn't apply, they apply now, and connect them to that.
That is, it's a wonderful reminder, and reality that we need to know, and we need to make sure we're focusing on who our customer is in that transaction. And every person is unique, and the opportunities, the benefits, they're very unique to that individual. And it's, we do right by them to ensure that we are keeping their best interest at heart, which is not checklist. It's saying, hey, did you know? And if you're working in a community or anywhere where there's a significant amount of, like where you are, certainly, there's this, you're going to be dealing with a significant number of veterans. Now, there's veterans everywhere, of course, right? And so knowing what those are, and if you're serving that community, is so important. One of the
One of
questions,
the
oh yeah, yeah,
sorry.
please.
One of the big things is also the benefits for family members. I have a dear friend. We met on a plane headed to California, and we just got to talking. And she told me that she was a widow. Her husband had served; he passed away, and she, long story short, she didn't realize that she qualified for his benefit as a surviving spouse. And we stayed connected after that flight. We both landed, headed our separate ways, and she ended up utilizing his benefit that she had no idea that she qualified to use as well. And we joke that we're due for another trip, and we're just such a beautiful friendship. And I'm so glad that I was able to help her as well. That's probably one of the highlights that I've had in my career, is helping a widow to just know that her husband was still taking care of her.
That's amazing. And that is such a testament to that, as we've talked about, that community, that service, that connection. In that vein, Carrie Ann, how do, a lot of this kind of falls up under the concept of allyship, right? How do we support the military community, veterans, et cetera? How would you, and I think as colleagues and as neighbors and as everyone, right? So you're going through different experiences. How do we support that? How do you think about that as we can be better allies, you know, to our colleagues and our neighbors?
Yeah, so when I was going through the most difficult time, when I had no contact with my son, like I said, most of my friends, their kids were going off to college. They just didn't really understand. So fortunately, one of my son's friends' moms, who I didn't really know, reached out to me, kind of like what Jenny was just saying, and said, "Hey, I heard Andrew left. I'm a member of this organization called Blue Star Moms, and we're all moms of military children." And so I got actively involved in that organization. And I was able to, kind of what you were saying earlier, put together giant care packages to send to people who were on deployment. And my husband's a school teacher in New York, and a bunch of students put Valentine cards together, and we put them in the boxes. It was around February. So, I mean, just getting involved with people that understood was really helpful. But I think the most important thing is that to just stop and listen, because when I would try to talk to people, about what I was going through, and I couldn't really express it. Nobody understood. And people were wanting to give me advice, and I didn't, I don't know. I guess at the time it didn't, I was grateful for it, but it wasn't very helpful because they just couldn't relate. So I just really needed somebody to listen. So I think just listen, um, you know, empathize, with the person, what they're going through, even if you don't understand it, and kind of, just be a shoulder, listen. And then I ran some 5Ks. So there's plenty of things in the community to get involved in. You can walk a 5K if you don't want to run, or walk a mile run, whatever it is. There's so many things in the community that you can get involved in to help families or servicemen and women. So I think that's the biggest thing. Just listen, and maybe, even if you can't understand, just be a friend and be a shoulder.
Just listen. I love that. Because I love that. Mary, when you were in the military, did you experience, sort of this? We talk a lot about kind of work life balance, or maybe we've retermed it like work life blend, because balance to me doesn't often, it doesn't really exist. Um, so, how did you balance that, if you will, in the military? And then, was there anything that you learned or lessons from being able to do that in that very different environment that you've carried forth to your life today?
There is definitely no work life balance in the military because the military becomes your life. It's your family. Um, as a young Marine, I was in Okinawa for my first Christmas away from home. I spent Christmas with my boss and her three children and her husband in her apartment. They opened presents, and then they opened their house for all of the junior Marines to come and visit and be someplace and have Christmas dinner. Um, as a more senior Marine, I threw the baby showers for the Marines that were having their first kids. You know, because you are stationed away from family, probably 80% of the population of the military is not near their hometowns. So it's a very much a blend. You're calling, you're picking up the phone and saying, "Hey, you're late. Where are you? What's going on?" Because you know that there's something that's impacting. Like you said, it is your whole life. So it's not really a separation of work versus home life. And it was actually one of the bigger challenges to realize that, yeah, I kind of have to step back and I don't get to ask you. I very much want to engage employees and know, is there anything I can do? Is there anything we can help with? Please no, you don't have to tell me anything. If you need the time, just take it. So it's a very different mentality in that aspect. Um, it's
That's Yeah. It's interesting. It's the actual
it's
having to step
it's
back, like,
something that, that you miss, you know.
yeah, yeah, because that's really something to think about. I mean, I hadn't thought about it in that perspective. Um, the role you play as a leader in that type of environment, and how different it is. There's a lot that's the same, but then there's also this, oh, I have to pull back. I can't quite be, yeah, that's very interesting. But I'm quite sure that your team values your commitment to them and their well-being, for sure. I'd love to ask each of you individually, and Jenny, I'll start with you. What's your hope for the next generation of women entering military life?
My hope for the next generation of women entering military life is I want to give you hope and let you know that there is continued success after service. And those leadership skills, the traits that you learn, it could be scary territory when you're thinking of transferring into civilian life. But just know that the civilian life will greatly be positively impacted by what you learn in the military. I highly encourage the women for our next generation also to always take advantage of the opportunities that are available to you. They're not always, sometimes you have to go against the norm, you have to push through. Some people may not see opportunities that are presented. For example, when I was dual military with three kids, and I continued to go to school, and that wasn't I didn't have anybody pushing me. It was, I had to discipline myself to do that and have a long term goal. And I was just thinking, I have to make a plan when I do leave out of the military, whether it's voluntary or involuntarily. I highly encourage women to make the exit strategy for when they get out, and feel free to stay connected to those women that you may have been stationed with. Amazing women that we will do anything for each other. And they have connections to jobs. They will do whatever they can. Just always stay connected with them, because you may not need something, but they may need something from you. And it just means the world to call and follow up, and just always keep that camaraderie amongst the women that you served with.
That's great. And you answered a little bit in there of another question that I was going to tag on for each of you, which was, how do you handle adjustments leaving military life? But then also, what advice do you give service members now to prepare for the adjustment? And I think, leveraging connections, not losing track of, having a plan, thinking through what you might want to do. I clearly, with you, Jenny, it's not set any limitations on your capacity, because you are a dynamo. That is so impressive. Mary, to you, what is your hope for the next generation of women entering military life? And then also, what advice would you give to making an adjustment coming out of the service?
I have a dichotomy here as well. Part of me is incredibly jealous of the opportunities, but also excited for all of the opportunities that are opening up to women. But I also know through my connections with the veteran services organizations, and especially the Women's Veteran Services Organization, that the military can still be a dangerous place for women. So my hope for them is that they know how to speak up for themselves, know how to assert their autonomy, and how to work within the system to ensure that they are safe, and how to get help within that structure, and how to still remain self-sufficient and to drive forward through anything like that as well. As for transitioning, I transitioned in 1996, and there really wasn't much there. But again, work in the computer field, I had access to the burgeoning internet, and I knew that there would be services. So my advice would definitely be to explore and to find every possible, that, like Jenny said, take advantage of every program that is out there. They have transition assistance programs now in every branch of service, and they do some amazing education, but there's also gaps. So, if you're looking at college, hit up the college. Every college has a veteran services office now as well. Governments have assistance on every level. There's county offices, there's state offices, there's federal offices that you can go through as well. So again, like you said, allyship and connecting to find out and make sure you're taking advantage of everything that you have worked and sacrificed for.
That is powerful, because I think it is also touching on the reality of, some of the challenges for women in the military. And it's important. It's a tremendous opportunity, but it also comes with, some things that you're going to want to think about. And one of the themes that keeps coming through here is that, how do you create that assertiveness and that standing up for yourself? And I think there's probably a fair amount of that you might learn in the military. However, for women entering the military, how do you find that voice and stand up for yourself, and whether it be in service or in the workplace? So the last question I have before I'm going to turn it over to Bill Tully, who's going to give the team some neat stuff we're doing, and some overview on the ERG itself. Any thoughts, Carrie, on or either of you, but I'll start with you, on encouraging your peers and your teams to find their voice, and build themselves up that confidence that you learned at a young age, going through a lot of change. But anything else to add on that you can think about?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it just comes with it life experience, learning how to be your own advocate, watching, particularly with women around you being, advocates for themselves, others, finding a mentor. I mean, one of the best things about Anywhere is that we have a lot of really great women in our organization. Probably more women, I think, now than men. And when you think about, I mean, even Sue, your position, when you think about how women can move up in any organization and in life, I mean, just find people around you that are supportive and can help build you up. Stay away from the negativity and just try to find where you're comfortable in your own skin. It took me a very, very long time to do that. And so even being an independent child, growing up in a military family, being forced to do it, I still didn't really learn how to do it until my 40s. So don't be like me. Find that voice, and really tap into those around you and those that you, um, you know, can be that you see that are they're really great mentors and can help you.
Yeah, I love that, and I can tell you, Carrie Ann, I was I've come into a lot more of my comfort zone the older I've gotten. So I do think there is something to the life experiences, and the growth, wherever that comes from, that helps inform who you're going to be as you grow. And we just pull on that. I think leaning into that, being totally open to that opportunity of growth is really important. There is some beauty that comes with experience and age, though. I will say that. But you also can learn that through other paths. But not everybody gets there in the same way or the same time, and so leaning on strong mentors, a strong group of allies, no matter what you're trying to accomplish, that sense of team and community that we've talked about here. And I'll go back to something Mary said earlier, that push and pull, right? I think is really important. And I think that is such a valuable takeaway, because leaders can push you so far, but you've got to kind of come on. Like, there's just such a balance there. There's such wisdom in that thinking, and know self and seek self improvement. A couple comments I've written down. I was taking notes from you ladies this whole time, so just so we are unfortunately out of time on this group. Is there anything anybody wants to share? I know there's a ton of personal stories I'm seeing. We'll share them with you. So, from the chat that everybody's sharing, so grateful for your time. So thankful for your service, and all capacities. And we're proud, very proud, and honored to have you part of the Anywhere team, across the country in so many different roles. So thank you so much. Mary, Jenny, Carrie Ann, any last words? I'll start with Mary. Otherwise, you don't have to say a thing. You can just say thanks for having us and bye.
Just to follow up on that note about how to develop that confidence, first one is probably the hardest to learn, and it is to trust and believe in yourself. But definitely, definitely find your person or your people at work that reinforce that for you. That you can go and say, "Hey, is this okay? Does this sound right? Does this okay? Are you seeing this the same way I am?" So that you can get that validation and just bump that confidence up a little bit, so that you can regroup and go back into the fray and say, "No, this is right." But other than that, thank you very much for this opportunity. This is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you all. So amazing. And yes, find your people. Find your person, find your people. They're very valuable, whether they're, I call it your board of directors sometimes, whatever it's going to be, your personal board of directors that's going to pick you up when you can't do it yourself and give you your push, and tell you what you need to hear, good and bad sometimes. So you want to find that. So thank you, ladies, so much. Amazing opportunity to learn from all of you and your experiences. We're lucky to have you. We're grateful. Thank you. I am now going to bring up Bill Tully, who's going to go over and share a little bit with you about the Service Employee Resource Group.
Yeah, thank you, Sue. And of course, our panelists, Mary, Jenny, and Carrie Ann, for sharing your incredible stories and experiences. During the discussion, we heard the themes of serving our nation, serving the community, and supporting our families. And with that, I'm really excited to share on behalf of Anywhere, my co-chair Kurt Smith, and the Service ERG, we will be making a donation this year to Blue Star Families. Blue Star's family fits our service ERG mission so well. Blue Star Families is a nonprofit organization committed to strengthening military families and the community. They have programs in job and career training, including a military spouse employment initiative, family care and support, and community building. They've reached more than 1.5 family members every year. So if you're interested in donating or learning more about Blue Star Families yourself, you can find a link in the chat or visit them at bluestarfam.org. Collectively, we can make a difference in our communities. You heard that from the folks on the panel today. I agree with our panelists. The way to get involved is through local community, or you could become a member of the ERG and lend your support that way. On behalf of the Service ERG, to all the veterans and family members supporting our military family members, thank you. Thanks again, and now back to you, Sue.
Thank you. And I'm just so kind of speechless. We do a lot of these. I'm not sure one has ever been as powerful or as impactful as the conversation we've had today. And, I do encourage everyone to be an ally. We talk about that across the spectrum as it relates to our diversity, equity, and inclusion focus. Be an ally here as well, and be an ear for someone or a shoulder, and understand what our teams are going through, and be thankful and grateful that we have women like those that joined us today, the men and women of our armed services and armed forces, and their family members, to support them so they can support and protect us. So thank you all so much. Please consider joining our service ERG, our women's ERG, what moves her. But definitely, thank you. Thank you all very much. Have a great day.